Welcome back to Funky Politics, the hardest hitting political show on the planet.
That's right, folks. I am he. I am DC. Right here at Funky Politics International, sitting atop the 31st floor of a 29-story building. That's right. They got me on the roof today, folks. I'm on the roof, but that's okay. We're all good. Let's get right into this thing. Ooh, there's so much going on in our country and the world. First of all, let me just make this statement. Black lives matter. Black lives do matter, okay? And I think the entire world is showing us that Black lives matter. Number one, we've got allies in Amsterdam. We've got allies in Istanbul. We got allies in the British Isles. We got allies everywhere. And they're rallying with us because there was an injustice. Injustice wasn't just done in Minneapolis. This injustice started 401 years ago. And I think a lot of folks have woke. They're woke now and they're awake now. And they see that we can no longer live in a society that's built on racism because racism has held us back. Of course, there are people that have made money and there's people that are going to make money tomorrow. But when it's all said and done, if you're living on a house built on sand, it will surely sink one day. And I think that's what America has done. And we don't want America to sink. We want it to prosper. But all citizens have got to prosper. All boats must rise. And speaking of all boats rising, Minneapolis has proven one thing, that they're going to be a leader in this era of change. The city council has adopted a resolution, voted a resolution to disband or defund their police department. Well, I don't think we want police departments to disband. We want to see them reformed. We want to see them reinvigorated with new bodies, with new people, with a new mindset. There's no need to disband a police department. We know we need policing on our street, but we need more community policing, right? More community policing will do a better job in trying to bring all of our citizens together. Another point, I will say this, President Trump, time and time again, this guy just really sets a tone that is just so counterproductive to what we're doing in our country, where we need to go as a world. We need a leader in this country that's willing to move the needle and move the needle in the right direction. Right now, as of Juneteenth, and I can say that right now because the president has decided he's going to have a MAGA rally. That's right, a Make America Great rally on Juneteenth, which is absolutely it's really disconcerting. And he's going to do it in of all cities, Tulsa, Oklahoma, which we know back 99 years ago what happened there with the major race riots that killed upwards of 300 African-American folks. People, stick around. Don't go anywhere. There's more to this. We're going to take our country back. He says he's going to make America great again. We're going to take America back great again, all right? That's what we're going to do. But to do that, we've got somebody that's going to be visiting with us today, a young lady who has made a name for herself in the marketing business. She's been with BET. She's currently with Disney Media Distribution, the vice president there. She is doing wonderful work. Comes out of Chicago, Illinois. That's right, Chi-Town. Lord have mercy. You better watch yourself now. It's a tough city. Kimberly Wilson. Kimberly Wilson's joining us right here on Funky Politics today. Let me bring her on board. Kim, how are you?
I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind every day, I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Have you ever been brought into a conversation with your own music? Well, your brother did that thing, did he not?
Listen, don't have me out here crying.
We about to all take up arms. We're all about to take up arms. Fuck you, boss. It's glad to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Let's jump right into this thing, Kim. You know, the spotlight has been on, of course, on our country, and it's been on the world about all of this that's going on. But I want to hit on something right before we go to that piece. COVID-19. We were already in a battle before COVID-19, right? And so now we found ourselves in a new battle with COVID-19. What is this thing doing to the entertainment industry? What is it doing for those actors out there, those performers out there, how are they able to survive in something like this right now?
I mean, I think it's brought the industry to a screeching halt, to be honest,
Yeah.
in terms of new content. I have a cousin who is an actress, and um, folks are having to find other streams of income just to survive. So COVID has really infiltrated every area of our lives, in the entertainment industry, certainly, uh, but every area. What it has forced some people to do is be more creative about the content that they're creating. You see a lot of animation that doesn't require being on
Mm.
set, heavy production budgets. So you see a lot of that. You see a lot of people spending time creating their own content in their own environments. And writing, just writing, because the industry's on its way back. I just read that LA will resume productions in the next month or so. So the industry will be back. It will look differently, but I think for this time that it's been shut down, a lot of people, especially actors and crew members and those people whose presence is required on set, has absolutely been impacted.
And I think a lot of times we don't think necessarily about that support staff, but we think about the John Legends and them making wonderful music, and God knows they do, Beyonce. But before John Legend takes the stage, there's a gaffer there, there's a sound guy, there's
Mhm.
a lady there who's dealing with the lights. There's a production crew there. All of these people that make up Greater Los Angeles, really,
Right.
in a lot of instances, and the outside and the outer rims of the counties there, they've been out of work for some time now.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
so, go ahead.
I was going to say it's really distressing to see, and I know there have been movements to create funds and resources to support them. I know Netflix has done some things, the guilds have done some things, but at the end of the day, their livelihood was completely demolished. So hopefully, as we get back to being able to have these productions, and specifically in the content creation side. Now, when we're talking
Mm,
concerts and things like that, like it's a
sure.
whole nother level.
Wow. And I read your bio. Of course, you're from Chicago. Shout out to Chi-Town. Shout out to Chi-Town.
Okay.
Uh, my folks are from Chi-Town. My mother's actually from Chicago. But I
Okay.
noticed where you did a lot of mentoring with young people in terms of helping them to develop these plans.
Mhm.
You need a plan for anything and all things, right? And I've got a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old, and I tell them all the time, hey, what's your next move? What's your
Mhm.
next step? I mean, you're doing this, but what's your next step? How are you encouraging those mentees now? And I know you can't see a lot of them because of what's going on with the COVID piece, but how are you encouraging them through these most difficult times right now? Not only COVID, but we're also facing this unrest in our country.
Yeah, look, this is unprecedented. So, a lot of the advice that I've given in the past may or may not stand up right now, to be
Wow.
honest. Uh, I always say though, stay ready, and that means, how are you saving money? How are you
Mhm.
spending your money? Making sure that you're creating cushions for yourself, because anything can happen. Anything could have happened to me, to be honest. And
Sure.
it doesn't matter if you just graduated from college or you've been in the business for 20 years. Um, Understanding whatever industry you're looking to get into, understanding how they make money is so important.
Hmm.
I think a lot of times people get into these businesses and they don't know how that business makes money. A lot of content companies, they make money on licensing deals. They don't, and I don't know that a lot of people in creative or production know that. So if that side of the business goes away, the revenue goes away. So understanding how an industry or a company makes money is really important. Everyone has an earnings report that you can read, and it tells you what operating income is, where it's coming from. And so these major companies that have diversified portfolios, whether it's sports and parks and entertainment and consumer products. And if any one of those businesses gets hit, how do they survive? So it's just important to know whatever business you're getting to, whatever industry you're getting to, knowing what drives the bulk of the revenue for that business is really important.
And I agree with you completely. But a lot of our, and I talk about personal experience with young people I've dealt with here in my city. A lot of them see the flashy lights in LA. They see the Broadway in New York, and automatically light goes on. That's where I want to be. Is that I don't want to demean or diminish people's hopes, because we do. There are going to be a whole new plethora of actors and actresses and songstresses and sing. Do we need to push our young people more so toward that area you're talking about? How do you develop the business plan? How do you work in AR? How do you work in publishing? You may not be the one that is actually singing, but you're responsible for those publishing, for the credits, the publishing, all of those. Do we need to push our young people more toward that type of career? Yeah,
I don't think that we need to push them toward it. They just need to understand it. You
sure.
know, you have people who are just creative. It's just oozing out of them. They can't help it. And I know what that looks like when you try to suppress that. It is important, though, if you choose a career that is fickle, that
Hmm.
you have a plan, not even a plan B, a plan 1A.
Yeah.
So you can't make money acting. How are you going to make money? I know a lot of people who get into real estate, they get into investments, they get into areas that allow them to still go on auditions or still allow them to be creative, but they can make money while they're doing that. So if you make a decision that I want to go into a creative field and it could take you years to make money, just knowing how you're going to make money is important. But I wouldn't deter it, because I've seen dreams crushed and it's not a
Whoa.
look.
Sound pretty low. Well, now, and speaking of making money, most of us think that to get into film, I've got to go to Hollywood. I've got to go. I've got to come to LA, Kim. I've just got to be there with you, right? In order
Mhm.
to sing, in order to. But there are other locales in our country. I think Atlanta is one of those places, right? That, with Tyler Perry and what he's doing down in Atlanta, you got some. I think House of Darien and some other things in Houston, Texas. Do you encourage your young mentees or young people, if you just want to do this, you just want to up and I know I'm not going to say up and just go to LA, but or do you encourage them, hey, to plant some seeds where you are, develop that skill set and see what you can do in your own communities, and then maybe look at, hey, taking a flight out to LA and seeing what you can do, or to New York?
I think it depends.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
honest. I mean, I needed to be in LA because the job offer was in
Mm.
LA. But I know actors who live in New Orleans and live in
Oh,
Atlanta
wow.
and live in Chicago. There are agencies there.
Sure.
It just kind of depends on where you feel like you need to be.
Yeah.
So the bulk of productions are in LA. It is what it is.
Sure.
If theater is your thing, then New York might be um, where you want to go. But I think in this day and age, I think COVID changed the game a little bit in terms of where you think you need to be able to do what you want to do. So now I don't know that I need to be in LA anymore, to be honest.
Sure.
We're working from home. And so home for me could be Chicago. Uh,
Mm.
that could change over time. But and look, I'm not an agent or an actor by any means.
Sure.
But from what I've seen people do it from other places. But there is something beautiful about being in Hollywood, being in LA, if that's what you aspire to, being surrounded by that. It can be a motivator, it can be inspirational, it can be hard. Um,
Mm. No doubt.
you just got
Yeah.
to be ready for that.
And we talked about COVID-19. COVID-19, on top of that, we got the protests as well. The protest for right is what I call it. Um, the, but I want to talk about what these entertainment pieces look like in another, let's just say by December, maybe and I want you looking at crystal ball that I know you keep in the closet, because you know everything, you know all of this stuff. But Coachella, Rolling Loud, Bonnaroo, the Montreal Jazz Fest. I mean, Essence. What do these things look like now in the future? And especially with companies, these major companies that put a lot of major dollars behind them. in terms of wanting to get their brand out front in front of all of these participants. Just looking forward, what is it looking ahead, I guess? What does that look like for you in that marketing space that you've come out of?
Well, I can pretend to know know anything about the live concert business. My guess is that virtual first until we figure out how we can get people together. I mean, if you look at some of the soccer leagues right now, I mean, they're playing with Zoom screens where fans can actually watch through a Zoom experience.
Oh.
And so while it's not the same as being there, but there's also gaming platforms like esports that are now like Twitch looking at how do we host live events that are not necessarily gaming, but can be used for other spaces. So I think innovation and technology will allow for that change. I know there is no replacing being there in the moment with your people amongst all that energy. But until, I'm usually a pessimist, but I think there's too much money in the treatment of COVID to be made that this would go on much longer. Like I truly believe that, the money to be made is in the vaccine. And once we can get to that, we can get back to live events, people in same spaces, things like that.
Well, COVID has, of course, taken us all probably 100 steps back from where we were on the day before. But now we're faced with the protest for right. And then prior to all of that, let's talk about, and I want to kind of shift a little bit. Let's talk about the spaces that you have been able to encounter as a woman, especially as a Black woman, right, in our country. The Me Too movement, and I've had an opportunity to have conversations with people like Gail Mitchell and some others. And the Me Too movement, as it was born out of something that was extremely ugly, has that shown any leveling off in terms of are we still working on women getting into these spaces of the VP suites, of the major executive suites? Are we doing better now in your estimation? Are we getting there at least?
So I look at it in two ways. There's women, and then there's women of color.
Oh wow.
That's two different conversations.
Whoa.
So it depends on which one you want to have.
I want to talk about the women of color. I can't talk about Becky and Karen them. Now they my friends, but y'all my sisters. Praise the Lord, everybody. They my sisters, baby. Y'all my sisters, man. Praise God.
Look, I think there's been a ton of movement for women in general. I don't think that that's the same for Black women specifically. When we talk about women, we don't always talk about Black women. There was this really amazing campaign that just happened this week on social called Share the Mic. I don't know if you've seen that, but it was on IG of white women sharing the mic with Black women. And you had actresses and celebrities handing over their Instagram account to Black women. And there was a takeover. So Black women were talking to this white, celebrities audience, and then they would come together at the end to do an IG Live. And I think where we have to get to is if we're talking about women, we're talking about all women.
Yeah.
That it's not enough that one segment of women are the beneficiary of that movement, that get in the C-suite, that gets those jobs, that get more pay. That if we're going to talk about women, you cannot exclude Black women in that conversation. So until we get to that place, then no, I have not seen movement.
Oh wow, that's pretty disconcerting, because I think what's going to bear itself out of all of this that's happening, I think when the world, and this is just completely my opinion, the world is looking at the systems that we've been able to live in and live within is a system that's not really based on what we would call equity, right? We talk about diversity, equity, inclusion all the time, but if you're still walking into, and I'm Bleep Incorporated or Bleep, I'm not gonna call any names, and and you look at their websites and you look at the management team, the senior leadership team, and you still see da 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 da. At some point, is that not what some of these protesters are talking about as well? Not just you kneeling on, not just you kneeling on my neck, but it's kind of like what Reverend Sharpton said. We were creative, but you had your neck on my knee, and I couldn't let it come out. Right?
Yeah, I think it's hard to separate our experiences in the community and in the streets with what we see in corporate America in the boardroom. I was just talking to a group of people about having to show up in a corporate environment, but carrying the burden of being Black and what that means, and seeing Black people killed on video, and seeing brutality, seeing despair, constantly seeing mothers losing their sons and daughters. And so while, we certainly made some strides as it relates to executives. I mean, I'm one of them, but there's layers to this thing. There are not enough of us. And those same people who are protesting against what we're protesting for, those are the same people that they go to work, they have jobs, they, approve loans, they run businesses, they're CEO, there is very little line between those things. And so I feel like when you get one right, you can get all of it right, but none of it's right now.
Are you impressed with the allies that we've been able to acquire? I think as a people, and I say acquire because I know a lot of it's real, but then I'm sure some of it could really be I'm just going along with the party. But I remember in the marches of '68 and prior to, you saw very few white faces in those marches with Dr. King and those folks right there, right? But what you did see, you saw some of the clergy. I'm seeing almost kind of the opposite now. I'm seeing the children and the great grandchildren of some of those folks that march. We're seeing those right now in the marches with our young people, and to me that's encouraging. I mean, you're in LA. I'm sure you've seen it, and I know you've talked to your parents back in Chicago. And all of this is coming together with not just us, but it's a lot of allies. Is that not encouraging?
It is, sure. I just think that look, two things. The optimistic view I have about this is that I've seen hearts change in real time. I actually have. I've literally seen my white counterparts shed tears at this moment and really talk about what they could be doing differently. But I also feel like we've seen this movie before. So the question becomes, has COVID changed the game?
Whoa.
So we are all in this moment together. You do not have the distraction of brunch and vacations and your kid's soccer game, and you don't have those distractions. You're in it with us. And we're all confronted with these images and this feeling. And by the way, the fact that these protests are still going is a direct result of people don't have jobs to go to.
Yeah.
They got time.
Yeah.
So, I'm hopeful that as I've talked to people who need to be allies, and that they are truly now getting to see why it's important. And by the way, their kids are pushing them. Their kids are not having it. I've had multiple people tell me that my son or daughter, is asking me, what are you doing? Can we go to the protest? So I think, they're getting it from every angle. But this without action means nothing. So my hope is that they're being pushed to act in this moment.
In your short life and my long life, we've seen a lot of this. We've seen the beating of Rodney King, which should have, and it did cause quite a bit of damage in LA County, in some other parts of the country. We've seen the killing of Tamir Rice. We've seen the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. We've seen the killing of Breonna Taylor. We've seen the killing of George Floyd. But we heard about the killing of Emmett Till in 1965, when what's happening now, to some measure, could have happened then. I'm hoping that this is not a flashpoint in time, that really we're going to see a lot of change. And I, with NASCAR, and I've got to give it to them. I'm not a big NASCAR fan, but for NASCAR, and I know ain't but 10 of us at the races, and most of us down there selling Cokes. I mean, well, no, I'm not going to. Some of us own cars. But when you think about it, Kim, for NASCAR to say, we will no longer allow you to carry the rebel flag into our stadiums. And we're talking about Talladega, we're talking about Daytona. And I've been through both of those cities at the same time that races were going on. And I was driving extremely fast. And so I'm just hoping, and this is not a flashpoint in time where we will soon forget, right? Because I think sometimes we have a case of short memory.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This one feels different because, like I said, we're sitting in it. We have nowhere to go. We have nowhere to turn to. We have no distractions.
So you think it was a double whammy? The COVID hit us in the left side of the jaw, and then this murder of George Floyd that we all saw hit us in the right, and it just kind of said, "Whoa, no mas!" It knocked us out.
And it was also, Ava DuVernay talked about, which I thought was really poignant. It was the angle of the camera, like how you got to see his face straight on, how you got to see the cop's face straight on, the little smirk he had on his face.
And he was watching you. Watch him. And it almost seemed like he pressed his knee harder to say to him, to say to me, you don't mean it. And that's just, and I'm going to let you finish your story because I'm about to get upset. No, I'm not going to get upset.
No, it's emotional for all of us. And, the way that it was captured, I think just really spoke to a lot of people. It wasn't a side view. It wasn't a tussle. It wasn't blurry. It was a very clear video, and you could see the cop's face. He looks directly at the camera, and it's like smirk. And that smirk just kind of represented every microaggression, every time you were told you couldn't, every time someone called you the N-word, every time, like it just represented so much. And to hear that man call for his mother, it was all of those things. And by the way, it's COVID.
Yes.
So this storm of things coming together has really forced everyone to focus.
And then, and I don't want to belabor this, but prior to that, you had the Ahmaud Arbery piece that apparently happened in February that some of us really are just now getting to now. And then prior to you had Breonna Taylor, and it just seemed like it's just one thing after another. And they expect, I'm assuming that the citizen body expects, well, we're going to just let the system play out as it will, and justice will be served, and we'll come back and we'll do something another day. And I don't think that's going to happen this time.
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this. So, Chicago, Disney, media distribution, you're doing everything. You're VP. I mean, you're in the C-suite. Matter of fact, I think the suite starts with your office and right? That's how it works out there. And you're in LA. What are some of your closing thoughts? What would you like to leave, especially those young sisters out there that need to see women like you? Because I think with examples, they know that C-suite, it's not above me. I can get there. That young lady got there.
Yeah.
You and the Gail Mitchells, all of you guys, you're getting there. And you apparently are propping the door open with your foot to make sure somebody comes behind you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I would just say in closing, look, don't let up. Just don't let up. There are so many reasons not to do it. There's so many people telling you why it's too hard, or you'll never get that job, or you'll only get to a certain level and you won't. If you want it bad enough, just don't let up. I tell people on my team when we're talking about promotions and, things like that, help me make sure that they can't poke holes in your story. Be so tight, be so dope, be so good that they can't poke holes in your story. That means that, we got to show up a little bit harder. We got to go a little bit further. But if you want it, you'll do it. And hopefully everything, the brunt that we've taken, my generation, Gen X and before, and millennials are taking, will allow Gen Z to not have to deal with so much of the nonsense and deal with and just really focus on the craft and not have to also deal with the politics of that. But the bottom line is that is what we're in right now. And so you aren't built for this. Don't play yourself. Like it is not a game.
I got you. I
So
got you.
just don't let up.
I like that. Don't let. I love the shirt you got, all black, everything.
Mhm.
Let them see it. Let the world see it. I want to let you know that your parents right now, your ancestors, your folks know that you're the hope. You are hope and desires of your ancestors. So you with the work you're doing, keep doing that work. Please keep doing that work. Kimberly, come back and visit with us again here on Funky Politics because this is what we like to keep it real, right, and funky. We just gonna tell it like it is, whether they want to hear it or not. We just gonna tell it like it is up in here. It get real funky. Sometimes it gets so funky I have to put a jacket on. I got
Oh Lord.
to go take a shower after this, but I got to do that.
Well, thank you, DC. I appreciate it.
Hey, stay well, and hey, look, we look forward to one of these days when I'm in LA. I'm gonna come out there and check you out, and we have a water because that's all I can afford to buy in LA is a water. All right,
All right.
bye bye. Stay well. Thank you all so much for being with us right here on Funky Politics today. I've had a wonderful time with Kimberly Wilson, and we hope to get her back here again. So you all stay safe. Make sure you stay safe. Stay apart. This thing ain't over yet, right, Kim? It ain't over yet.
That's right.
And make sure you wear that mask. All right, stay well. We'll see you again right here, back again on Funky Politics, powered by the Kazukia Network.